Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome back for another episode of Into the Floo. In today's episode, I'm going to do a deck tech for you. So some of you might know and some of you might not. There was a website way back in the day called Pojo.com. A lot of gamers and TCG collectors and players know about this website. So Pojo.com, and I'll leave it in the description below so you can check it out. They had this huge following for the Harry Potter TCG. The website itself was up around the time the game was printed and very popular. And so within their website, they not only have a list of cards and all that kind of stuff that you can find in the community as well, but they also have deck lists, which is something that I haven't found in the community or as a resource. I know that the Revival Facebook group has a few decks in there listed, but in the Pojo.com website, they have, I don't know, like handfuls and handfuls of decks. And so I thought it was really cool, especially to see how the decks were built 20 something years ago. And I think the majority of them were built without Chamber of Secrets cards because there's dates right next to the name of the deck itself. Like there's decks called I See You Before You See Me and things like that. But anyway, it's just really kind of creative to see how people were building decks with just base set cards. And then you can see how they introduced the Quidditch cards and then a few Diagon Alley cards in there. And then as the game started to get more popular, and they started to introduce more expansion decks, and you can sort of see people were getting their hands on the different cards, Adventures at Hogwarts, etc. And so it was really neat. So when I found it, and I had been looking at this website for some years now, and I didn't realize that the majority of the people in the community didn't know, but that's also because there are a lot of new players. And so welcome to all of you. And I'm going to, again, leave the link in the description below. For those of you that are in the league or want to join the league, I also left a few of those resources in the Discord. And so I'll leave the Discord in the link below. So if you want to take advantage of building decks and then playing them face to face, and you're more than welcome to do that within the Harry Potter trading card game dueling league. So anyway, today I'm going to go over a deck that I found on this website. So I did not build this deck on my own. It's built from them. And there was a person who was named Snuffles. And apparently what you would do, just given what I've seen on the website, is you would send your deck list to this individual. They would read it, and then they would make their comments based on your deck and then adjust it according to what they felt was going to make it the most successful deck. So it was really a cool way of like allowing players to show their creativity on their own. And then if they needed help, then they would say, hey, Snuffles, here's my deck list. I'm not really winning a lot. I'm not knowing if it's a good deck or not. I've only played against 1 or 2 people, this and that. And then Snuffles would come in and be like, don't worry, I got you. And then he would just like add cards and it was set up really, really cool. But the good thing about this website is it also kind of gives you a peek into, again, where the card game was back then. So they've got like a card of the day section and articles and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, I would recommend you checking it out. It's a really good place to see deck lists. And I'm going to go over one of them right now. So let's get into it. All right, here we go. So the thing that I thought was super creative about this, and I've seen it done a couple times, and I think there's a few decks out there that do this 3-color type deck. I love the fact, so for those of you that are just getting into the Harry Potter TCG and you're interested in like deck techs and things like that, I'm going to do a few more of these with my own decks as well as decks that I find on this website. I think it's just a good way for everybody to kind of see what's out there, different card combinations and all that kind of stuff. So like I said, I'm going to start with this one. So the cool thing about this deck is it is 3 colors. So that is really sort of difficult to pull off sometimes, but the way that they do it here is actually done really well. So I've got it divided by the 3 different types. So the starting character is Madam Hooch. And so what Madam Hooch does is once per game, you may search your deck. When you do, you may take a broom card from your deck, show it to your opponent, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. She also provides 1 Quidditch power. Then we are running 12 Care Magical Creatures and 10 Transfiguration Lessons. So because she provides the 1, you are able to have Quidditch cards, because remember, all you need is 1 of that lesson type in order to play that card. So if you want to play Fouled, you need 4 lessons and only 1 of them has to be Quidditch, right? So she already gets that out of the way for you. She already provides you with that, so you don't need to have any Quidditch lessons in this deck, which is the same for Snape. Provides you potions, so you don't need any potion lessons. Flitwick provides you charms. Sprout provides Care Magical Creatures, and Minerva McGonagall provides Transfiguration, right? So it's the same type of thing there, but because this is 3 different lesson types, it just kind of adds a little bit more style to the deck, if you will. So let's go through and see what each type of card they have in here, and then we can kind of talk about, in my opinion, what the point of this deck is, what the foundation of it is, how you can get as much damage as possible, and all that kind of stuff, right? So obviously I know you all can already see the creature that we've got right here, but let's just keep it going. So we're going to start with the first set of cards. All of these are the Transfiguration cards, all of these are the Quidditch cards, and all of these are the creature cards. Okay, so we've got Transfiguration. So the first 4 we've got in here are going to be Lost Notes. So Lost Notes is really good because it essentially slows your opponent down, right? So your opponent plays a lesson or plays an item, and oftentimes items will provide a lesson power, and so by using Lost Notes and choosing one of your opponent's items or lessons in play and discarding it, it slows your opponent down, because then they can't use specific spells or creatures or anything like that because you're discarding it. So they're running 4 of these in the deck. Next, we've got Picking on Neville, which you can choose one of your opponent's cards in play other than his or her starting character and discard it. Your opponent may prevent this by choosing 2 of his or her cards in play and discarding them instead, other than the starting character, of course. So for those of you that don't know, I think I talked about this in one of the videos. Picking on Neville is kind of has been called the poor man's Dobby's disappearance. It's really sort of sad that it's called that, but essentially it kind of does something similar, but with Dobby's disappearance, you get an extra action because you can say, hey, I want to return a card to your hand, but I get an extra action to do it. Whereas this card, you discard it. And then they can sometimes choose 2 to discard instead. And if you play with your opponent a couple times, or you can see what the goal of their deck is, let's say it's to get as many owls out as possible, and then they play an Owl's Emporium, they might really want that Owl's Emporium there. So you can use this and say, I'm gonna play a Picking on Neville on your Owl's Emporium. And they might say, ooh, I really don't want to do that because now each damage from that owl is 1 more with Ilop's Owl Emporium. So they might want to keep that, but instead they will get rid of 2 of their other cards in play, which you might have done that strategically anyway, right? So anyway, this is a really good card to have if you guys wanted to copy this deck and run a Dobby's Disappearance instead. Obviously, do your thing. It's your deck. So they've got 4 of these as well. And then the next card here we've got is Steel Claw. We've got 4 Steel Claw, and that is obviously going to come in handy with these creatures, which we'll get into in a minute. But what Steel Claw does is all of your creatures do damage to your opponent. So especially with this heavy hitter here, that's deadly, but we'll get to that in a minute. And then the last card that they run is a Color Changing Ink. It's an item, and it says you may use an action to count the cards in your hand, put them at the bottom of your deck in any order, then draw that many cards. So I've played this deck, I think, at least 3 times now, and I have used this more than I thought I would. I was actually pretty surprised that it came in handy because I hadn't really thought to have Color Changing Ink in play before, and so I was like, that's interesting that they have it in here, but it actually worked out really well. So, and the fact that you can use an action to do it is helpful because it's not like a one-time thing, right? Like as long as it's in play, you can use it. All right, we're gonna go to Quidditch now. So the first 4 cards that they've got is Fouled, Quidditch cards do 4 damage to your opponent. During your opponent's next turn, he or she gets 1 fewer actions. If this would mean that your opponent has fewer than 1 action, he or she still gets 1 action. Okay, so this is pretty much cut and dry. It's a really good card. A lot of people have this in their Quidditch decks. Fouled, Ouch, and these types of cards for Quidditch decks are pretty much in the majority of them. That's the thing about Quidditch decks, is it's always like damage and then something else, because Quidditch is brutal, right? So for the majority, I think for almost all of the spells that do damage, it also does something else. And so that's kind of the point of Quidditch cards, is that you're doing something extra. So it's not like a Stupefy where it's like you just do damage. It's damage and something. And so I love the fact that the majority of these cost 4. So hopefully if you just get 3 of your lessons in play and that Madam Hooch provides you 1 power, then you can pretty much play every card I've gone over so far, with the exception of Lost Notes, which is 5. So then we've got Ouch. So like I mentioned before, Ouch is a Quidditch card. It does 5 damage to your opponent. Then if your opponent has any cards in his or her hand, he or she chooses 1 and discards it. So like I said, Quidditch cards do damage and then something else. This one costs 5 as well. But with having 22 lessons in your deck, you should be able to put those lessons out pretty fast. We've got Ouch, just another damage causing card. All right, then we've got Pulling Up. So Pulling Up is cool because it allows you to do 2 damage to your opponent, then draw 2 cards. So you could play 2 of them at the same time, which is actually what happened to me. So I was able to do 4 damage and draw 4 cards. And then those 4 cards can hopefully be allowing you to do more damage, or they could be your creatures that you can put down in case you've got your lessons out. So it's a really helpful card. And it does damage at the same time. Now we're going to look at the broom. So like we mentioned, Madam Hooch allows you to look through your deck, take a broom, and put it into your hand. And so if you do that at the beginning of your turn after you draw your card, then you could at least use an action to put the broom into play. And so we're going to look at the ones that they've got. They've got Clean Sweep 7, which says when you play this card, look at the top 4 of your deck and put them back in any order. So if there are fewer, look at all of them. Now it also provides a lesson power, which is cool, and it only costs 2. So if you look for it and you have at least 1 other lesson in play, then you can put it into play after you put it into your hand, given that you have another action to do that, and then look at the next 4. So hopefully your opponent doesn't do, now of course they might do damage, right? Like hopefully they don't, but they might do damage. So you'll see you'll see those 4 cards, and you would put them back in order. Now, if your opponent does have, let's say, a black bat or some other type of creature in play that does 2 or 3 damage, you can always know that and then choose which cards you can afford getting rid of by being able to see the top 4 and then putting them back in any order. So that's kind of one of the benefits in case your opponent is set up to do damage to you that next turn. So there are 2 of those. The next one we've got is a Comet 260. It costs 3 and it provides 1. Once during each of your opponent's turn, you may prevent 1 damage done to you. If you play this card and you already have a broom in play, discard the old one. All of the brooms say that, so you kind of have to be careful. Like, it would be dope to like have this in play to have this one in play maybe after you played this one already, because this only does 1 thing for you, right? So after you put this one in play and you check the 4 cards and you put them back in any order, it doesn't really do anything else for you except for providing that lesson power. So that's cool, but I would rather just get rid of this to add Comet 260 and then make sure that I get enough lessons in play to replace this lesson power. So because Comet 260 is once during each of your opponent's turns, you may prevent 1 damage done to you. So if they've got that black bat in play or something like that, then it's only going to be 1 damage to your deck, and Comet 260 is going to take the other one. So just being able to have brooms in play that do something to you for multiple turns is more beneficial than just that one time. So it is okay to be able to put this in play, utilize it, and then replace it with something else, right? And then they're running 2 of those. And then we've got a Nimbus 2000 for the last broom. Again, it provides 1, and it says whenever one of your items or spell cards that need Quidditch power does damage, it does 2 more damage. So that's always cool, because if you get this, it is 7, so it's a bit more pricey, right? So you can put it into play. You'll get rid of the brooms that you've already got. And then let's say you've got an ouch. So you want to play an ouch, so you do 5 damage plus 2 more, because it is a spell that needs Quidditch power, and it does 2 more damage. So that's 7 damage that you're doing to your opponent with this in play. So not too bad. Now let's look at the creatures. So there's only 2 types of creatures, and if I'm being honest, I want to say I might have replaced a creature that was in the original list on the website with these. For those of you that look at the website, once I provide the link, if you find this deck, then we'll be able to figure it out. I want to say they did not have the Black Dragon, but they might have. You know, I was looking at so many, and I've been building so many decks for the league lately that I actually forgot. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So we've got 4 Herbidian Black Dragon and 4 Black Bat. So it's sort of self-explanatory, right? So hopefully you can get the Black Bats out as soon as you can. The good thing about this deck is that the majority of the cards do not cost a lot. You've got the Nimbus 2000 and the Herbidian Black Dragon that cost the most. Nimbus 2000 at 7 and the Black Dragon at 8. But again, the majority of the cards are 4 and 5. So if you can just do as much damage as you can and get your Black Bats out, it seems like that's kind of the point, right? So even if you were able to get 2 Black Bats out, you do 2 damage right when you play it. So that's, 2 damage right there, and then 2 damage each turn. Now, of course, you've got spells and creatures, all these different things that your opponents can be playing that will get rid of these Black Bats, but that's where the spells will come in, because if you slow down your opponent by picking on Neville and Lost Notes, and then you continue to hit them with the damage from Ouch and Fouled and Pulling Up, then you'll be able to at least get yourself to a position where you can play not only the Black Bat, but also the Herbidian Black Dragon. So the reason that there's more Care Magical creatures in here versus Transfiguration is because the Black Dragon says to play this card, discard 1 of your Care Magical creatures lessons from play. So you got to get rid of 1 of them. So by having more in there, it kind of gives you the opportunity to at least stack those up faster, and then you can afford to get rid of some. So of course, if you can manage to get them all out there, then great, or the majority of them. But at the end of the day, you run multiple copies just to increase your probability of getting the cards, right? So doing damage with your creatures, and then doing damage with Pulling Up, Ouch, and Fouled is really going to get you where you want to be. But then, like we mentioned, we've got Steel Claw, right? So you've got 4 Steel Claw. Hopefully you can get all 4 of them. Sometimes you're not able to, and that's okay. Even if you get 2 of them and you've got this in play. Okay, so all of your creatures do damage to your opponent. Okay, so that's 7, 8, 9. And if you play 2 of these, okay, that's 18 damage right there. That is dope. Even if you play 1 of them, that's 9 damage. Okay, but if you're able to play both, or if you have more combinations, or however it is that you've got these laid out, you're doing damage with your spells, you're doing damage with your creatures, and you've got the ability to look at the top 4 cards if you manage to get one of your brooms out with Madame Hooch's help. And you can see if that Steel Claw is coming into play. If you need more lessons, you can put those lessons up to the top in order to get this kind of stuff out. So you got a bunch of options here. I just think it's a really, really cool deck. It's very creative. I'm sure some of you out there have a deck that's similar, or if you don't and you really like the way that this deck is played, then here you go. You got the ability to build it yourself and come play with us in the league. So again, I just think it's a really dope deck. I love the cards that they chose. If there are some cards that you think should be here instead of others, or if it were your deck and you were building it, if you would replace some, then let us know in the comments below. I'm curious to see your thoughts on the deck as it is, as well as some changes that you would make. I love the idea of all of us getting involved in these type of conversations as far as like deck building and things like that. Like I said, I'm happy to go through deck techs with you guys, ones that I built myself as well as some that I found on this website or others. You know, I just don't want to take someone else's deck that I've played against or something and then put it out there in case they worked really hard on building it and I don't have permission to do that. But because this site is on the internet and it's 20 years old, I'm hoping that that's okay that I share it, which I think it is. So anyway, let me know what you guys think, and let me know if there are certain types of decks that you would like me to break down. Otherwise, I'm just gonna kind of choose them randomly and do something like this. So I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts. Until next time. All right, everybody, thank you for stopping by. That is going to be it for today's episode. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think about the Madam Hooch deck that I went over. And if you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I will put the link for Pojo in the description below, as well as a link for the Dueling League if you want to get into that, and a couple other links that are showcasing some of what people are doing in the community. So if you need a deck, I have built a few decks with a few like huge lots that I purchased. So if you're in search for a deck and you don't want to invest a whole bunch of money on buying this lot or that box or whatever the case is, then please hit me up and I can help you with that. Anyway, until next time, you guys have fun and be safe.